After recording the last episode, it just occurred to me that I don't necessarily have to do this media blackout thing that I'm doing with the podcast and the other material that I produce on the Instagram handle and also on Twitter. So I figure I can go along with with our regular podcasts and the sorts of things that we talk about on this podcast and on the other channels, and then I can keep going on with these alternative ideas that I'm exploring about the NSAS protests and lessons learned when it comes to sales, communications, persuasion, and how that can influence not just our businesses but public policy. So I can run those things on a parallel trajectory, but then what I'm going to do is that for the episodes that deal with the NSAS thing, so as not to come across as news jacking, what I'll do is those particular episodes will not be promoted or pushed on the regular channels, Facebook, Twitter, and what else? Instagram. So I'm not going to push those on the regular handles, but the regular topics that we do keep on exploring, like what we're going to discuss today, I will promote them as normal on the other channels. So that way we can continue our regular discussions in a very practical and business context, as well as exploring the other side with the NSAS protest, which may have some business lessons that we can glean from it, but which are largely connected to social justice issues and public policy, and which are not necessarily the focus of why I set up this podcast in the first place. So, on to the regular episodes before we get into the SARS stuff later in the day or maybe tomorrow. So, I received an email from a company that I think we all could learn from. It's from a company called Otter.ai. Otter is the animal, OTTER.ai. I'm not sure if it's .ai or .com. If you are interested, just hit Google after this and you'll find some more about them. Now, they have this really cool service that I've been looking for a very long time. They have an app that handles transcriptions. Now, this is the reason why it's important. If you're listening to this podcast and you are a wedding slash event industry professional, I assume that there are other material that you listen to as well, ebooks, podcasts, YouTube videos, things of that nature. Now, we consume all this content, and sometimes you come across some tidbits of information, and you wish you had the whole thing down in writing, but it's an absolute slog when you have to listen to your podcasts in real time while trying to make notes. So what I do and what a couple of us end up doing is that you listen to the podcast now while you are cleaning the kitchen, giving the children a bath, going out for a walk, or driving your spouse to work, or for those of you who are engaged, who have children who are back in school in the more quieter parts of town, because like in my hometown, for instance, in Makudi, things seem to be going on okay, so people are still dropping off their kids in school because there's no rioting going on there. So let's say you're listening to this and you happen to be in Makudi and you're doing school runs at the moment. So the usual thing would be to listen to it normally as you would in the car. Then when you get back home, you would try to now replay and then make a few notes along the way. So I figured, wouldn't it be nice if there was a transcription software that could handle all this for you? Now, what people advised me to do basically was just to play back whatever it is that I wanted, open a document, a Google, what's it called? Their text-based application. Is it Google Notes? There's a Google thing anyway that you can have on your phone. So to open that, and then through the menu, you'll be able to access the dictation, the dictation function. And basically, once you switch on the dictation function and you leave your phone close to your computer or whatever it is that is doing the actual playback, everything would now be transcribed on Google, on the Google Note document. Now that's a useful idea and it's very good, but just not very practical for those of us who are trying to get our learning on. but we happen to be married and we have kids running up and down all over the place, because you would actually need quiet time for that to work. And it would be a tad bit inconvenient if you try to do this when everyone has gone to bed. So people are trying to sleep, but then in the background, in the living room or whichever room you are, you happen to have your Brian Tracy playing or this podcast playing or whatever it is, and then it's transcribing the whole thing. And then plus, you would have to be there to make sure that everything goes according to plan. And when the recording, when the playback stops, you end the transcription and tidy everything up. So I was hoping that there would be another service out there that would allow you to just open up an app, take the audio file, drag it into the app, and then the app would do the transcribing. And lo and behold, there actually is an app, and that is what Otter.ai is for. I got it because I thought it was going to have the regular transcribing features, but you can do the click and drag thing, drag the audio file into the app, and then the app will transcribe the audio for you. And the good news is it's absolutely free, because the other options I had come across were paid options. And then let's forget about the cost of these things. The whole hassle of trying to hook it up to your GTB card, and then you start going into the arguments with your bank about whether it's denominated in dollars or naira and all of that. I guess those of you who have GTB, are they dollar cards or something? I can't remember what they're called, but if you have those sorts of things available, then I guess it's not an option. But for the rest of us regular folk who just have the regular card, these are some of the issues that we face. Luckily for us, those things have been sorted out between Netflix and the bank, so we don't have to go through the hassles anymore. Well, but that's just for entertainment. So back to our edutainment, our education. So anyway, so Otter is free. I guess that's just the main point that I was going to say. But they only allow you for 10 free hours of transcribing a month, which I think is okay. Because the Brian Tracy material that I have, the very first one that I had, was The Psychology of Sales. And I think that's a 6-hour material. The whole material is about 6 hours. So basically, if you have this app and you have lots of things piled up, you could be transcribing a book and a half in a month. And I think that's not a bad idea at all. So that's me sharing my useful tidbit that I have for you guys today. But this is the lesson that I think we can learn. Now, I got the app. I installed the app. And as part of the setup, you had to do a test session. So I did do a test session, and I did my usual. I like to throw in some problem terms to see how well the transcription service is. I throw in things like my hometown. I say things like Makudi, Abuja, Lagos. I've even tried Umuahia on one of them, just to test them and see how good they are and how they handle other accents apart from the typical US and UK that they are used to, and he handled it quite well. And we closed up the session, and that was that. I was going to come back to it later, but I haven't decided on which book I'm going to transcribe first, or which series of podcasts and things of that nature. So it's been dormant on my phone for a while, maybe a week or two. And then, lo and behold, today I received an email saying, basically the gist of the email was, thank you very much for downloading the app. We're glad that you love it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this app to someone else? Now, of course, I am likely to recommend it to someone else because I'm raving about it to you guys. But there is one thing that caught my attention. Now, these people are using an email cadence, an email sequence. And this is one of the reasons why I advise that it's preferable to use the phone, or if you're going to have an email cadence, then don't have it be a rigid template, and make room for personalized interaction along these lines. Because I had a look at the email and it didn't have the option to hit reply. So assuming I wanted to hit reply and talk to somebody else and say, well, I liked it, but I had a problem with this feature, that feature, I couldn't. It was not an email that I could reply to. The only thing you could do was to hit the On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend on a scale of this to this, that to that, and then it would send the survey back to them. Now, the key point that I'm trying to bring here, especially for we wedding professionals and those of us in the event space, we can't afford to assume that our clients have had a very good service with us and that they've had fun. It is something that we have to ask, because we have to be sure that the client, the bride, the groom, the parents, whoever it was that was your primary point of contact, we have to be sure that they had a blast, that they had fun, and that everything was good, and that if things were not good, what the issues were, so that we can resolve the issues now and have a happy client on our hands. And if it's one of those things where you're not able to resolve the issues entirely to their liking or to your own satisfaction, because we have to do it both ways. We can't, it's not in all cases that we can bend over backwards, make sure that they're totally happy, and then at that we suffer a loss. So if it's not one of those situations, at least you have learned something about problems to anticipate in the future, or ways about how you can improve your business. So we can't assume that everybody had fun at the wedding. Assuming you're a wedding planner, don't assume that all the food went out on time and that everybody was happy and that you had a stellar performance, even if you think you did. Same thing for those of us who are wedding photographers. Let's just not assume that the bride loved the photos. Call her, send a message, send an email, whatever it is your preferred means of communication, and then ask, I hope you loved the photos. And if she says a resounding yes, then you can now move into the next thing on a scale of 1 to 10. How likely are you going to recommend, or can you please recommend me to someone else, and those conversations that follow. But we have to be absolutely sure that they loved it, that they loved the service at first. There are going to be situations where, in the case of Otter, you're dealing with someone who is absolutely pleased and is indeed happy, like in my own case, and so it's not going to leave a negative brand impression upon me. But it's not something that we can presume for people in the wedding and the event space. And this is one of the reasons why I recommend picking up the phone for those of us who are wedding professionals when it comes to interacting with our clients. If you pick up the phone and you call the bride, and let's say you're one of those Lagos wedding planners, and you're like, yawo, how now? Congratulations, baoni honeymoon, and all that jazz. And then you guys talk about the wedding. Because it's a phone conversation, she's going to be able to be free and, freestyle, spit freely. And then you'll find out things that she loved, things she raved about, the downsides and things like that. You'll be able to hash out any issues. But if you were to send an email, lots of people are not going to let it rip and feel free on the email, except where people had a very negative experience. I found that if people had a negative experience and you send them that email looking for feedback, and oh boy, they're going to let it rip and they'll pour everything out. So phone call, find out, not just, phone call, WhatsApp, email, whatever it is that you want to do, but I would recommend phone call. Find out, I hope you love the photos. I hope everything went according to plan. I hope you loved your wedding cake. What part of the wedding planning did you enjoy the most? Whatever question it is that suits your fancy. But we have to ask all these questions before we go for the recommendation, we go for the testimonial, we go for the referral. So that's how it works, at least in classical sales theory. As usual, you're not bound to follow what it is that I say, but I think that there's some common sense here, and it would be nice if you tweak your procedure. So, just in the off chance that anybody who works at Otter happens to be listening to this, you guys need to tweak your sales and customer service cadence. So for that email that you send out, it shouldn't just be those auto things that you can't respond to. Find out, first of all, you've downloaded the app. We hope you're enjoying it. Have you used it? How many times have you used it? Any problems with using it? We get rid of all those issues first before we go into, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend? So that's it. That's my tip for today. Make sure that the bride, the groom, the parents, the uncles, the aunties, whoever it was that was your key point of contact, because sometimes you get swung into the wedding through the auntie and maybe you don't have much interaction with the couple no matter how hard you try. So if it's one of those cases where was Auntie Meg who brought you into the whole thing, and you weren't able to talk to the couple, they took off to the UK or to Australia or whatever immediately afterwards, and you weren't able to get cool with the parents, then run this whole thing through Auntie Meg. Auntie Meg, I hope you guys love how I performed as a wedding photographer on that day. I hope you guys love the photos. I hope everybody's happy. You get all that out of the way before you now start saying, Auntie Meg, I beg, if any other wedding comes your way, hit your boy up. I'd appreciate that. Okay, so that's all it is. That's all we have for today. Thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based photographer. Please hit me up on email if you have any questions, comments, or inquiries. That's ayede.taver@gmail.com. I am on Twitter at AYEDETAVER. No space, no underscore, no dots, no nothing. Thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.